Hello, everybody. My name is Brian Watt. You guys got to forgive my face for radio. I am the morning news anchor for KQED radio. We're going to have a quick discussion about how this came together, what people learned, etc. I'm just going to thank everybody for being here first, but let's get David Diggs up here. Jaye and Adam Fenderson up here. And by all means, since he just left us with that emotional cliffhanger, let's get Mr. Cam. Remoggy. So, wow. We heard a lot from Mr. Cam and we want to hear more, but I had to start with Mr. Diggs. David Diggs at the end. I want to know, you are the executive producer. You wrote the main title theme, but I want to know first, and how did you get involved? How did you find this project, and how did the project find you?
Uh, Nicole, who spoke and introduced the piece, was it created a thing called the College Advising Corps, and she brought me out of the board of it at one point, and we were having coffee, and she said, "Hey, we're trying to make a movie about this advisor, Cam. Um, would you be involved in some way?" And I was like, "Yeah." That's how that happened, it, and it was supposed to, it was about this incredible, um, caring, conscientious, charismatic advisor, who really understood the gig. He understood that g- college advising, like creating greater access to college, for minority students, for underprivileged students, is a social justice issue. Um, and that was amazing. And then COVID happened, and they decided to make a movie anyway. And so while all of this was happening, while they're waking up in the morning and all of these incredible students who are here today are figuring out how to go to school, are figuring out how to continue learning, or figuring out how to continue to apply for college, while Cam is advising them, while they are protesting the over policing of their school, I'm rolling out of bed at like 10 and deciding whether to have a mimosa or a White Claw. Like, that's what I was doing at that point of the pandemic. And then I would get this funny true these guys like, "Here's what's happening today at Deer Valley." And I was like, I better get my shit together. Damn. Where you? So I've been being inspired by y'all for a very, very long time. It is my first time meeting them in person today, which is wild. So just thank you. So this is the bravest thing in the world, to be actually yourself in front of people. Where she, so yes, I've done very little and been rewarded greatly for it. So
All right. Well, I'm not sure that Adam and Jay claim to have done very little. So talk a little bit more about the pivot, because it sounds like you you wanted to do this and then COVID. So I think what people really want to know, who might be into filmmaking or just trying to make sure a story gets told, is how cope and how you had to adjust, what that meant for this.
Well, it started with the panicked calls in full because the first day we showed up for filming, we found out that school is not going back in person. And we are like, oh my gosh, can we even make this movie? Should we make this movie? And Nicole was like, yes, you need to make this. It's more important than ever. This is a time capsule of what we are all experiencing. And then creatively, I think for us as artists, we had to really think about how do we make this compelling and interesting if we're all just living in our Zoom worlds.
And then also follow all the guidelines, all COVID guidelines, making sure we were distance and all the rules that we had. And so it was challenging, and with a very small crew. To the people on our crew, we have John, Will, T. I don't know about who else we have out there, but thank you guys so much. Yeah, and here, Rocco. We would send a small crew because Jay and I are married and we work on things with one master brain. We can sometimes separate. And so she would go to one student's house and I would go to Mr. Cam's house with one camera at each place, hoping that and then we'd record the Zoom sometimes if we remembered to hit record. But then we would film hoping that it would work. And remarkably, it did.
And I'm thinking of the really beautiful shots of Mr. Cam just sitting alone in the classroom. Why don't you describe how many people not only would have been working on just a shot like that, a setup like that, but who maybe weren't there for this because of the protocols?
Go ahead. I mean, normally we're pretty low budget indie filmmakers. We'll do whatever it takes. I have these like pictures from my phone of like this setup, and it looks like we had a bunch of people setting up, but it was pretty much John and Will and T who were here.
Carrying sandbags.
Yeah, I was carrying lots of sandbags, and it was great. I mean, it was a very small crew, and we did everything we can, and everybody was super on board with helping in every way they could.
Yeah, and just a shout out to the students. I just love you guys so much, and I um just want to thank you for letting us into your lives and allowing our small crew to be with you, and we're sharing everything you did from us because that's what made the story possible. And we often, when we talk about it, this is not our story. This is yours, and we had the opportunity to steward it to the screen, and it would not be possible without you all. So I just want to thank you back.
Hey, I want you to see. You had it.
I know that at some point you all were supposed to stand up and take a bow. I just kind of forgot what that was supposed to be. This is probably the best. Also, most of the time, all the time, you're supposed to stand up and take a bow. Like the gentleman back there really took a real bow back there. Mr. Cam, who I actually had the honor of interviewing on Friday, you all should know that on KQED radio this week, either tomorrow morning or Tuesday morning, my interview with Mr. Cam is going to air ahead of the first showing of this. But I was a theater kid. My high school theater experience meant a lot to me. Tried to be an actor at one point. Didn't quite work out. Got into radio, really happy about all that I'm doing. But I try to imagine what it would be like to go back to my own high school and teach what I've learned. And that's what you did. And I want to hear more from you about that, about what it was like to just go back and sort of use what you learned to help people in your own school.
Yeah, I think that leads in the next. I think for me, is the hardest word is social justice, and I think going into college and learning about those kind of systems of oppression that I talked about in the show. I think it was uh, well, first and foremost, my parents always taught me to help people, and so um, as I kind of lifted myself out of spaces that felt like they were holding me back, I meant to make sure that I did the same for others. And so that's kind of the reason why I decided to become college access professional. And it was great to be able to have the opportunity to do that in a space that I kind of knew very intimately. being a student there already. I think in our interview, you talked a little bit about, the differences in the size of the students and just, being there, seeing old students, seeing my old counselor and things like that. So it was really good because I kind of had an idea what the culture was in Deer Valley. I also knew, what culture I wanted to change at Deer Valley because I had gone to that school already.
And we'll talk a little bit. What is the culture of a school around trying to get to college?
Yeah, I think, certain places do it really well, and I think those are places that we wanna model after, where, there's teachers and where the counselors had the, capacity to maybe, give, college advice to students. I think at the time you talk about it, I think the first episode, there's 2.5, 3 counselors to 1,800 to 2,000 students. So they have the time and the energy to do that. I think it's with the teachers, they're, aware of what students are going through outside of the classroom, and they're empathetic to that, and they're also, pushing students to kind of overcome some of the things that we saw where, it's just being a person, a mentor, a push for them to get into college because sometimes they face so many things outside the classroom as well. That college, what we call a college going culture throughout the entire school, it's something that everybody kind of has to take part in. It's something that we place our resources in, our monetary resources in, right? When we have funding, when we can find funding, right? We place them in the right things. And I think that's what a college going culture looks like.
David, can I ask you what it was like when you were in high school? Like, um, I mean, if you felt like those resources were there coming through.
I went to Berkeley High School, and
Uh,
uh, oh man, I'm so old. I don't know. Yeah, it was, well, I mean, the resources were not equally distributed, like most big high schools, I think, and so, um, students who had, uh, who were highly motivated, or who had parents who were making sure they were highly motivated, ended up getting access to the resources that existed. Uh, and then there were folks who were Ayers is here, who is probably the secret weapon for a lot of kids who went through Berkeley High School. Actually, he was an incredible teacher there. Some of us like got one of those, also, so. But it was similar to Deer Valley. It was a big place. It's a big place through to over 3,000 students. So lots of cracks to fall through, and definitely not enough teachers. Definitely not enough counselors. I had one meeting with the college advisor, I think, in the whole time I was there. But I wasn't. I was got to go to college, so it wasn't that. It was I didn't have to be meeting with them. They did end up telling me that Brown University didn't have core requirements, which is why I went there. So that I did not, I was unaware of that. So it was a good meeting.
and I know we had this student stand up, but I know there's also like a lot of college access professionals in the crowd. Y'all mind standing up because we getting them around golf at KQED. There's a lot of folks who, I was skipped to kind of yell in the spring, but I'm really just a representation of the work that we do as college access professionals. And that work, is this in the school, but also that this in creating strategic partnerships throughout the Bay Area, the systemic work. And I think, that's really important stuff with that, I'm a representation of all of the training, all of the folks that have taught me to do those things. Mom, dad, I love y'all so much. All of my folks, thank you. I think it's really important because it's interesting. I was having a conversation this morning, and this is a real generational thing. I think those of us that get access and get a chance to go to college, a lot of our parents, they had it a lot harder than us. Like I was only able to go and get to college because they went through something and then wanted something better for me. They were able to open streets different than a lot of us. And I think that's just really something that I want to uplift the generations that of the people that we stand on, and also again the people that are doing the work, the college access professionals that are doing the work. And the people who are funding that work, because we need more of it, especially with what's going on right here.
Adam and Jay, sorry it won't be all together, but you kind of asked for it. Yeah. Oh. I just want to know what the most surprising thing each of you learned in the process of making this. Like what I know you knew a lot. This is your work. You're very involved in work like this, but what surprised you the most in all that you learned in working on the class?
I think that when we were dealing with COVID and being in students' houses and their families letting us in, it was incredible. And it was, at first we were nervous, it's like, how much are we going to be able to do this? One of the things that surprised me is that with our small crew and all the things that we did, we actually never spread COVID amongst the crew, which was kind of amazing. I know, right? That we actually did what we were supposed to do, and it never spread, which is great. And I think that following the students, I was really surprised at when I think that if I was in high school and faced that, I don't know if I would have been as successful as the students were. I won't tell you where they are. You gotta watch the rest of the show. But I will say that watching them, like the endurance that they had, and every time we talked to them, it was like, no, I'm keep pushing, I'm doing this, I'm going. That was surprising to me to see that through all the students. It was really great.
God, and I I think it's funny. Adam and I had been telling stories about education for 20 years now. My very first TV show came out in 2005. Was called The Scholar, and it followed 10 high school seniors who trying to a person in their family or that person. I'm sorry. It's just trying to get to college, and I think what surprises me is that so much time has passed and we're still trying to solve these problems. We're still talking about access. And I think one of the challenges with education is that once a generation graduates, there's a new generation, and the problem's never really solved unless we keep working on it. And so that's what I hope people don't do is stop for these issues. Because you could fix it for one a generation of high school students, but that doesn't mean it's fixed for the future. So I just would urge you all to continue doing the work and also to be encouraged. I watched the full show because the work pays off and to really inspire to see everything that these students have accomplished.
David, anything that surprised you during this process?
Um, I think the
Yeah, the the perseverance of these students is staggering. I wouldn't have made it. I told you I was drinking in the morning and having panic attacks in the evening. Like that was my COVID experience. But uh they it's incredibly emotional as you get through the series, because I think you begin to realize all of the aspects of community. I mean, Cam, we're just talking about this, that you take for granted. There's an incredible support system in being able to gather together. It's amazing. Thank you to the Grand Lake for screening this here so we could watch it together. It's really important to be together. And for a long time, we were all separate, and we watched all these students figure out how to exist separately. And they're all here and they're all thriving. There was no rubric for that. We came out of this thing and we're just like, here we go. We're back into the world again. And there hasn't really been a taking stock of what we've lost. And so when I watch these episodes, I start to remember, like, it's different. It's fundamentally different. And we don't talk about that at all. When we were trying, it was really, really hard. Thank you to PBS for picking this up. It was really, really hard to get anybody to touch this. For years, we've had a finished docuseries, in a world, I work in Hollywood. Everybody's like, we need content. We had fucking content. And it's good and it's beautiful, and nobody would touch it because it was about COVID and everybody wanted to pretend it didn't happen. But it happened. It happened to everybody. It happened to all of us, and we're still fucked up. Can you just say like we all? And that's okay. And the reason that it's okay is because like we're all working through it. But what we have here is like this great example of these students who really, really worked through it and were and share it with us. And so we can all look at this and point to this time and be like, yeah, me, I did that too. That was crazy. That was crazy to go through. And it's not fair. And so all of us had something robbed from us, but they have that robbed from you when you're 18, when you're 17 or 8 years old is like particularly difficult to grapple with. And for me, I think it just makes me want to do better at acknowledging that time and realizing that we have a lot of work to do to come back from that. And maybe there's ways that we can point at this intense separation that we haven't recovered from to explain a lot of the pitfalls we find ourselves falling into nationally and globally right now, right? It's really easy to let a lot of things slip when you separate people, you know? And so it makes me want to emphasize community more when I see this. And that was a thing that I was not expecting to get out of a documentary about college advising.
I want to thank all four of you for coming on stage with me. Want to thank the students again, and I want to thank the Grand Lake, and I want to thank KQED for continuing to employ me and for doing things like this. Thank you all for being here. Have a very nice afternoon.